What's going on, guys? Zach here on the way to work. 7:30 a.m. on the East Coast. ZachEvanesh.com. All right, gonna let a couple people roll through, and then gonna get into this morning's topic. If you guys haven't gotten on it, get your 20% discount. Sign up for that Strong Life Insider. That's my newsletter. Just go to ZachEvanesh.com. So here's what I want to talk about today. Something that had me thinking that I've gotten a little bit away from it because of the location of the Underground Strength Gym, but the implementation of games and kind of simulating combative elements outside of the norms of what these athletes are used to going through. So to give you a little background history, when I had the first warehouse up in Edison, New Jersey, we used to take the guys outside, do a lot of movement prep, and warm up in front of the gym next door. They had a front lawn area. They had grass, whereas, you know, my front area of the gym was just pavement. And we had the guys go through their cartwheels, their gymnastics, their jump training. They went through sprinting. And then one of the kids was like calling people out, saying, "Somebody wrestle me, somebody wrestle me." And there must have been 15 kids in that group at that session. And it was amazing. Nobody would wrestle this kid. And I think it went on for a couple days. And then this one day when somebody finally stepped up, it took what seemed like 5+ minutes for somebody to step up and wrestle him. And what they were scared about was they're not on a wrestling mat, there's not a referee, there's not rules, right? They're on the front lawn, right in front of a busy road, outside. I mean, there were all these kind of curveballs thrown at them. And then finally, somebody stepped up to wrestle this kid. I remember Mike was the kid saying, "Somebody wrestle me." And Matt stepped up to wrestle him, and they were scrambling all over the front lawn. Finally, Matt wins the takedown. And then we started calling guys out, making everybody step up to wrestle on the front lawn. And like right now, it rained this weekend, so the grass is very slippery. These kids would wrestle where the grass was slippery, and I'm telling you what, it got them emotionally more ready for the unknowns of when they had to wrestle. And I haven't done it ever in Manasquan. I did it actually years ago when I first opened. One kid got a bloody nose, but the kids were just exhausted. I remember seeing them huffing and puffing, mouth breathing. And I remember saying to myself, wow, as soon as they get out of their own comfort zone, out of the norms, and they're no longer in common territory, you know, they start to fall apart. And you may have heard of, I remember in the early days this happened a lot, Joe Rogan would say, oh, he had a nervous system dump, where you're so hyped up, then you get so your nerves are going about 100 miles an hour in 100 different directions that you just exhaust yourself from your emotions, and you can't hold your hands up. Your body feels like jello and dead weight, and that stuff has a great carryover to the sports themselves. We also play ultimate football, and all that running and sprinting. You will see kids on the losing team just quit. They'll just give up. They'll stop running. They'll stop playing offense, defense. They'll stop, you know, chasing the other team. And it shows you, okay, who's going to fold when their sport is happening? Even if they're not a football player and we're playing ultimate football, it has a big, it's an indicator of who's going to fold under stress, who doesn't understand how to apply their, you know, physical and mental conditioning to the game. And it's very interesting of what kind of carryover it has. So that brings me to another point where, you know, football or facilities that are doing all this speed and agility work, they're constantly doing cone drills, right? Closed loop. I know where I'm going. Nothing's going to impact this loop. It's just kind of me racing against the cones. They're not reacting in real time. So when they get to the sport, there's less of a carryover. The mental aspect of training, what does the athlete believe in, how and where has the athlete been prepared for their competition is crucial. And I think with a lot of this kind of real playing, you know, as much as like, hey, we're going to wrestle on the front lawn, we're going to play football on the front lawn, that stuff prepares them on a different level. And the strength coaches that can implement that kind of, you know, modified game, modified competition into the strength and conditioning. And I don't really like that term, strength and conditioning. That's like two words, right? Strength has many different facets. Absolute strength, speed strength, strength endurance, strength speed, speed strength. I mean, so strength, muscular endurance, so many different facets under that umbrella. That's why I always say strength and performance, or really being a sport performance coach. If you can implement some of those simulated competitive situations, you're going to better prepare the athletes, not just physically, but mentally, for what's required in sport. So keep that in mind. I'm certainly, I mean, some of our guys will wrestle on the turf, which is bad because you get some serious turf burn, but it also teaches you not to do things like put your head down on the turf, get your, you know, you have to do things a little bit differently. And it's cool to see kids build that kind of confidence where they're willing to scrap, yet not be on the familiar surface, not be on familiar territory. And I'm going to finish with this. I've shared this story before. It depends how many of you have been following me and for how long. I was 16 years old, and I was with a buddy of mine, and we went into a Quick Check, which is a convenience store. As we're walking in, there's two guys staring at us. They look like they're in their early 20s, 21, 22, 23, something like that. He's staring at me. He doesn't say anything. I go inside. I think we get outside 10 minutes later. My buddy was going in to pick up like a sub and a drink, something like that. I went and got myself a drink. This is 1992. I get outside, and the same guy who was staring at me that didn't say anything, now there's 10 to 12 guys, maybe more, okay? Could have been somewhere around 15. There's a lot of dudes outside. And the guy who was staring at me that wouldn't say anything is now shouting, he's cursing, saying we're gonna fight. So then he calls me out and says something to the effect of like, oh, you're not staring at me now. And he's like heckling me. So I stop, I turn around, he pushes me in the chest. He pushes me again, and the first thing I do is I nail him with a double leg blast, and I get him against the door, the front door of the Quick Check. Now I'm thinking, this whole crew of guys is gonna watch us fight man to man. He starts screaming, get him off of me, get him off of me. Not 2 seconds later is that whole group kicking me in the ribs, kicking me in the head. And why do I bring that story up? Because I was never trained to throw a punch. I was trained to wrestle. I was trained to follow the rules. So what are the rules? 1 against 1 in wrestling. This guy says, get him off of me. Now I've got 10 plus guys kicking me and attacking me. So you have to learn to prepare athletes for less rules, for when things don't go their way. Because when I was younger, I never heard a wrestler say the ref ripped me off. I never heard it. But as I began training athletes, I feel like, especially after the year 2010, 2011 or 12, I started hearing that quite often. The ref ripped me off. And it's like, why are you blaming the ref? Why are you put yourself in this situation? But I know this one kid, the dad told me, he goes, listen, man, I want to tell you, you're training my kid up right. He lost a real close match. He got off the mat, and his teammates said, oh, you got ripped off. And his son, Renzo, said, what are you talking about, man? I never should have been in a match that close. I never should have allowed that to happen. The ref didn't rip me off. I lost because of myself. And his dad was so pumped that his son didn't fall and spiral down and, you know, jump on the bandwagon and say, yeah, the ref did rip me off. He took ownership and said, nah, it's my fault. I lost because I didn't do what I needed to do in that match. So if you are a sport performance coach, make sure you're taking them outside of the barbell, outside of sprinting in between cones and, you know, practicing the 10-yard start. Of course, if you're training them for a combine, there's other things, but I want you to think about this and spread the word with your friends who are also sport performance coaches. Put it to use. Let me know how it works. Get on over to ZachEvnish.com. Sign up for the newsletter. The Underground Strength and Sport Performance Manual is under the product listing on my website. You guys will love it. There are years and years of workouts put into that training course. You will love it. So get after it. Talk to you soon. Have a great day. I'm out.